local items, neon lights, slot machines, and much more for sale. You'll find fun for the kids and our famous free popcorn. BBC is open Monday through Saturday and located at 20th and St. Paul Avenue near Potawatomi Casino. Stay safe and healthy, my friends.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station. Breaking news as it happens. Stay up to date with your trusted and relevant source in news, sports, traffic, and weather. We are Wisconsin's radio station. News Radio 620, WTMJ Milwaukee.
At 8:01, it's 15 degrees. A cold weather advisory starts overnight for Fond du Lac and Dodge counties. That goes from 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. Tuesday. Tonight, partly cloudy, windy, and very cold with a slight chance for light snow to the south, a low of 5 and a wind chill, 10 below 0 to 20 below 0. From the WTMJ Breaking News Center, I'm Jessica Gatso. After a 2-day break in powerful winds carrying embers off and spreading the wildfires in Southern California, those Santa Ana winds are forecast to return. ABC national correspondent Matt Gutman has more from Altadena.
National Weather Service issuing its highest level of alert. And because these winds are coming in the middle of the night towards the early morning, they are concerned that they might catch people in bed sleeping. So they are pleading with folks here not to turn off those emergency alerts on their phones. They say lives could be at stake.
In a statement to reporters today, President Biden says he's activated 500 Marines and is calling on lawmakers to pass recovery funding. Confirmation hearings are set to get underway Tuesday for Donald Trump's cabinet picks, and Democrats are preparing too. ABC's Olivia Rubin.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is setting expectations before those confirmation hearings get underway tomorrow. He told the nominees to expect, quote, tough, candid, but fair questioning. Quote, they should come prepared to be honest about everything, he said. Schumer saying Democrats are also ready to pepper the nominees with, quote, tough questions about where exactly they stand on Trump's policies. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, Washington.
As colder temperatures move into Milwaukee, water pipes need to stay warm and secured. Superintendent for Milwaukee Waterworks Patrick Pauley tells WTMJ this is prime time for water main and pipe breaks.
The months of highest main breaks are typically January and February, when the cold has set in, the frost starts to penetrate deeper into the ground. That is when we experience typically the highest incidence of main breaks.
Milwaukee Waterworks encourages residents to keep their basements warm and run water occasionally to prevent pipes from freezing over. Wisconsin arts organizations seeking more project funding. President of the Greater Milwaukee Committee, Joel Brennan, tells WTMJ he's working with public and private donors.
All we're trying to do is ensure that we can shine a light on the sector and ensure that the community here in Milwaukee and the state as a whole gets all that we can out of the talent, the richness, the cultural diversity that we get to celebrate here in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin ranks 49th when it comes to supporting the arts, spending less than 20 cents per person. Compared that to Minnesota, which spends $7 per person. Sports, traffic, and weather are next. Outdoor Living Unlimited. WTMJ News Time is 8:04.
Our favorite reason to choose Diamonds Direct over any other jeweler? Free service for life with no fine print. That's right. When you buy your engagement ring or any piece of jewelry at Diamonds Direct, you will never have to pay a dime in the future for sizing, cleaning, or routine maintenance. At Diamonds Direct, there's no gotcha clause, no fine print, no looking for ways to void the warranty. Diamonds Direct, the jeweler you can trust with a no questions asked 100% free lifetime warranty with no strings attached. Come see us to learn more.
Reason number 52 to choose Diamonds Direct over any other jeweler. Only Diamonds Direct gives you a 110% diamond upgrade guarantee. Diamonds Direct will give you 110% of your original purchase price toward the new stone. That's 10% more than you paid the first time. Guaranteed appreciation. Who else does this? There's no fine print and no minimum purchase requirement. It's 10% more, period. Buy with confidence. Diamonds Direct. Your love, our passion.
This change has leveled us up while being able to maintain the same quality of service that we've always provided, with no upfront fees and 1.9% real estate commission. We're proud to be part of the Century 21 family, so you can move fearlessly with the added confidence of top-of-the-line marketing for maximum home exposure. And that means more eyeballs and the real potential for the highest price for your home. This is Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty, benefit-realty.com, where you pay less for full service. Each office is independently owned and operated. With the ability to market luxury homes on a higher scale than ever before, Century 21 Benefit Realty has taken a huge step forward to tap into a global network of buyers. Maximum exposure to spotlight your unique home with our fine homes and estates marketing so you can sell it for the highest price. And with no upfront fees and 1.9% real estate commission, you win. This is Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty, benefit-realty.com, where you pay less for full service. Each office is independently owned and operated.
Time for a WTMJ sports update from the Gruber Law offices. One call, that's all sports desk. The Packers end the season after their third consecutive loss, this time in the wild card round of the playoffs against the Philadelphia Eagles, 22-10. With Aaron Rodgers' contract off the books, the Packers will have roughly $63 million in cap space. The Bucs are on the home court tomorrow night. They'll take on the Kings with tip-off at 7. Taking a look at the roads with your Johnson & Sons Paving Time Saver traffic. All smooth sailing on the roads this evening, no major incidents and no delays. The WTMJ 5-day forecast. A cold weather advisory starts overnight for Fond du Lac and Dodge counties. That goes from 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. Tuesday. Tonight, partly cloudy, windy, a slight chance for light snow to the south, a low of 5 degrees with that wind chill 10 below 0 to 20 below 0. Tuesday, sunny skies, still breezy and very cold, a high of 17, that wind chill 15 degrees below 0. On Wednesday, mostly sunny, a high of 24. Thursday, partly cloudy and mild temperatures return, a high of 36. Friday, mostly cloudy and mild with a slight chance for rain or snow, a high of 44. Right now in Milwaukee, it's 15 degrees. I'm Jessica Gatso, Outdoor Living Unlimited. WTMJ News Time is 8:08.
Your basketball appointment show starts now. This is Bucks Weekly, your weekly checkup of your Milwaukee Bucks and all around the rest of the NBA. And now here's your host, Justin Garcia.
Off and running on Bucks Weekly as the Bucks getting set for a big week here. I know we mentioned that last week. It was a very successful week for the Bucks, all things considered. You had a chance at a great week. Had things gone a little bit differently yesterday afternoon at Madison Square Garden, but nonetheless, a 3-1 week for the Bucks. What was big last week was number one, just win. Getting back in the win column in that game against the Toronto Raptors. You, of course, had the two big showdowns with the teams that were directly, and still are directly, in front of you in the Eastern Conference standings, in the New York Knicks and the Orlando Magic, and the matchup that probably got the most eyeballs in Giannis versus Victor Wembanyama. Now this week, another 4-game week for the Bucks, and very similar to last week, you have 3 challenges, at least on paper. A Western Conference team that's in that mix, the Orlando Magic. You will face, once again, the Toronto Raptors, the 4th outlier team in your schedule for a second consecutive week, and our old friends, the Philadelphia 76ers. So you went 3-1 last week. In many ways, you answered the call up until Sunday. We talked about this yesterday on the postgame show. The Bucks are 0-8 in games played against the Celtics, the Cavaliers, and the New York Knicks, the 3 teams with the best record in the Eastern Conference. You only have 2 games left against those 3 teams. So at best, you are going to win 20% of your games against the 3 teams that in all likelihood are going to finish in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference. I don't know what that means. I'm not going to sit here and profess to have the answers and tell you, well, it means this, and here's how the Bucks regroup. I don't know. Could the Bucks go 0-10 against those 3 teams and still beat 1 or 2 or all of those teams in the postseason? Sure. Is 2-8 or 1-9 or 0-10 going to inspire very much confidence outside of the locker room in any of those matchups that you have in the postseason with those teams. No, it's not. But Doc Rivers was pretty adamant after the game yesterday that, look, coaches laugh at this type of discourse when you kick around the yeah buts and hey, look at the Bucs record against these teams. This means they can't compete in the playoffs. Coaches will be the first to tell you there are so many variables that go into it. How healthy are you? First and foremost, that is the biggest one. But if you're not playing well going into the playoffs, as the playoffs start, it's all a moot point. You know, we've experienced health being a big component of that too. Like if you don't have Giannis, you're not going to compete for a championship. If you don't have Giannis and Dame Lillard, you're especially not going to compete for a championship. This group needs to be healthy, and this group needs to be playing well. If that means it takes all the way up until the final 3-4 weeks of the regular season before you get the ship steered in that direction and you feel like, yes, we are playing our best basketball now. You've seen little pockets and glimpses of it so far this season. Consistently, maybe not, I suppose I would say. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like the Bucs have been up and down because where they currently sit at, 20 wins, 17 losses, let's also keep in mind that means you have gone 18-9 since your disastrous start of the season. So you take that out of the mix, and this team has consistently been playing much better. But the big thing that has evaded the Bucs so far this season, and, in many ways, this is a conversation that we are already accustomed to because we had it in a different sport with a team in this state. You look at the Packers and the talent that was on that team and the potential that was there for that group. What they did last year, and granted, I would not stack up what the Bucs did a year ago with what the Packers did a year ago, but it all boiled down to those final few weeks of the regular season, and it all boiled down to they're 1-5 in division. They were 1-5 in their games against playoff teams in the NFC, with the Los Angeles Rams being that lone win. You lost 6 games this year, including the postseason, to the Eagles, the Vikings, and the Lions. It's a lot of the same conversation, and it was tough to shake. It's going to be impossible for the Bucs to avoid. And as I said, there's nothing you can do about it. Those 8 games are out the window. You can focus on the 2 games you have remaining, one against the Cavaliers, one against the New York Knicks. But in the interim, it makes games you have against those teams that are around you, because that's the other product of that result yesterday. You had a chance to really start to pull away from the pack and separate yourselves and put yourself in that conversation with the Knicks as 2 teams that are starting to pull away. And these teams are going to jockey back and forth for the 3rd best record. It was always going to be a challenge to go any farther than that because of the tiebreaker component. And by the way, it's going to be a challenge to finish 3rd now because of the tiebreaker. You've lost the tiebreaker to the Cavs. You've lost the tiebreaker to the Boston Celtics. You've lost the tiebreaker to the New York Knicks. So what remains important, or what's most important now for the Bucs, the Magic and Pacers have both leapfrogged you in the standings. Indiana's 22-18. Orlando's 23-18. They both have more losses than the Bucs, but you're behind them in the standings. So while it's gone now with the Cavaliers, the Celtics, the Knicks, in terms of winning the regular season series, that is not the case for the Magic, the Pacers, the Miami Heat. The Bucs have yet to lose to any of those teams. Those games from here on out, the remaining games against those teams, are the most important games the Bucs have left. As great as it would be to, hey, you beat the Cavs in your final matchup against them. You beat the Knicks, and you did so in impressive fashion. Those teams that are bunched up around you, because you can still secure the tiebreaker and you can move past them, that's the important part, and that's the focus. That and consistency, and fixing some of the things that have really ailed the Bucs as of late. A couple of those things really popped up at the worst time yesterday against the New York Knicks. I do want to take a look at that And an advanced look at the injury report for tomorrow's game. Because, look, we mentioned it's a big week for the Bucks and the 4 games on the schedule. We tiptoed around those teams, but there's a lot of challenges here, including the hottest team in the league, and that is tomorrow's game with the Sacramento Kings coming to Milwaukee. So we'll take a look at that injury report and what to expect from the Kings as we move along here on Bucks Weekly.
Many times, patients have symptoms they didn't know were actually related to their airway breathing issues.
I was suffering from sinus issues, jaw issues, and neck pain. I guess I just kind of had my breaking point.
Unfortunately, this is typical. But until you get to the root of your problem, it's going to just persist. Fortunately, Jody took action, and the results were typical as well.
My quality of life is so different. But one of the first things that I noticed was my breathing. I don't ever remember being able to breathe like that.
Being able to breathe freely is life-changing, and the effects can go beyond that.
Sleeping better, having more energy, and it seemed as if all of those symptoms that I had just melted away.
And thank heavens for that, because at Advent, results are what drive us, helping you breathe well so you can live better.
Results may vary. Most insurance accepted.
Get started with your no-hassle refi checkup by clicking on the blue button at Accunet.com.
We know what you're thinking, and all we can tell you is to drive careful.
Yep, Wisconsin roads are no joke this time of year, especially when you're driving on old, worn-out tires.
Schedule yourself a tire appointment with Richlands. We carry all sorts of tire brands, including Goodyear, Kelly, Continental, and General, to name a few.
And every tire we install automatically comes with free tire mounting, free lifetime tire rotation, free flat tire repairs, and free alignment inspections.
Not to mention free wheel corrosion cleaning, lifetime warranty spin balance, and prorated tire protection.
Let's just say if you're driving around town, especially this time of year on old worn-out tires, you're due for tire service.
Courtney's right. And remember, be safe, buckle up, and hey, always make sure you have good tread on your tires, because cold, wet, icy roads are no joke. I'm Brett Matchke with Richlands, and you're due for service.
Richlands Tire and Service, such a refreshing change. Richlands.
You're listening to Bucks Weekly on WTMJ.
So a 4-game week for the Bucks. It starts tomorrow night, and all 4 are at home, by the way. Your longest homestand of the season. But it starts tomorrow night with the Sacramento Kings, who have won 7 straight games. They are 7-1 since making the coaching change, moving on from Mike Brown on December 27th, and replacing him with former Kings legend Doug Christie. And the Kings have piled up some impressive wins in that 7-game win streak, most notably beating the Boston Celtics on the road. They are a top 5 offense and top 5 defense since that coaching change was made. Now, you don't expect those numbers to carry over for the remainder of the season, I should say. But the offense is certainly for real. And a big component of the Kings playing better is one of the big challenges the Bucks are going to face tomorrow. And we saw it yesterday in New York, and that is De'Aaron Fox. He has upped his scoring and efficiency since this coaching change. De'Aaron Fox has had some big games against the Bucks. But you go back to yesterday, and I said this was the same challenge the Bucks were presented with then. Jalen Brunson. You know, we talk about De'Aaron Fox having big games against the Bucks. You would be hard-pressed to find a player that has had a bigger collection of games in recent years against the Bucks than has Jalen Brunson. And that continued yesterday when he scored 23 points in the opening quarter. The most points the Bucks have surrendered to an individual player in a single quarter this season. Finished the game with 44, which was remarkable considering the start that he got off to, that he didn't go for 60. But you knew you were going to be up against it to begin with because, as I mentioned, Jalen Brunson has had some big games against the Bucks. Then you learned shortly before the game, Ryan Rollins was out with the non-COVID illness that has ripped through this locker room and impacted just about everyone on this team, I believe, other than Pat Connaughton and Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez. It seems like everybody else has had this. You were also down Gary Trent Jr. with a hip flexor. And both of those players, Ryan Rollins and Gary Trent Jr., are both listed as questionable for the game tomorrow against the Sacramento Kings. You're going to need an all-hands-on-deck approach again, not just because of De'Aaron Fox, because of the rest of the perimeter play that the Sacramento Kings have. Blake Monk has started to, much like De'Aaron Fox, play much better since this coaching change. They've dusted off Kevin Huerter and brought him out and upped his minutes. He's given them some impactful play as well. So you're really going to be stressed on the perimeter here. And those are the matchups that have seemingly given the Bucks the most fits. It is nowhere near what it was a year ago. When we had this conversation ad nauseum, it felt like every week of, well, teams are beating the Bucks on the perimeter. It really hasn't been an issue for most of this season. You can point to 3 or 4 games, essentially, where it's really been a problem. But unfortunately, yesterday was one of those games. And being down 2 options, I suppose I would say, like, look, I'm not denying what Ryan Rollins has been able to do, what he has shown you so far this season. But the reality is Ryan Rollins is a fringe member of the rotation for the Bucks. Gary Trent Jr. is not. That was a big absence for the Bucks. Ryan Rollins, you were mostly down an option to throw out there against Jalen Brunson. But as we saw in the first 5 minutes of the game, when Andre Jackson Jr. picked up 3 fouls on Jalen Brunson, when A.J. Green had to check in and picked up an additional 2 fouls on Jalen Brunson, all options would have been exhausted yesterday. So if those 2 players are not able to go tomorrow, it is going to be a big, big loss for the Bucks. It has not been the levels of panic it was a year ago when it seemed like no matter who the opponent was, you could look at their point guard, you could look at their shooting guard, one of the 2 or both were going to have a big game against the Bucks. But when it does happen, it has broken down everything that this defense has improved and gotten better. It's not just the point guards scoring, like we saw in the case of Jalen Brunson. You think back to a couple of those games against the Chicago Bulls, a Brooklyn Nets game as well. Paint touches. When you do that, that's how you stress this Bucks defense, and especially if you're missing components. This defense is predicated on taking away the easiest and most efficient shots. Take away everything at the rim. They've done a good job, too, of defending the perimeter. But when those things, when you see the cracks and those start to find the areas to get to the rim, it opens up everything. And that's what we saw yesterday. So first and foremost, you need to slow down the perimeter for the Sacramento Kings. If you can do that, you should have a pretty decent advantage against this Kings team. They do not give up a lot of shots at the rim. When they do, the opponent is pretty efficient. They've been much better at that since the coaching change. But it's almost the irresistible force meets the immovable object, because a team with Giannis is going to get perimeter looks. And oh, by the way, one of the reasons why they don't give up a ton of looks at the rim, dunks and layups, is because they give up a lot on the perimeter. It's the math equation, right? Why would I take this dunk when I'm getting a wide open 3? That's what we've seen from a lot of teams. So in many ways, this game against the Kings, even though they are playing well, they have won 7 straight games. Again, offense and defense among the 5 best in the league in that 8-game stretch. 7-game win streak means they're due for a loss. But the way that they defend, it really feels like this could be a get-right game for the Bucks and for Giannis. We didn't touch on a couple of things about Giannis. I do want to get to that in a moment here towards the end of the show. His efficiency, what we saw from him yesterday, snapping a historic streak for Giannis. The notable performance from him in that loss to the New York Knicks. But when we return, we go courtside with the Milwaukee Bucks, and this week's guest, Bucks assistant coach Dave Yeager. You will hear that conversation after this on Bucks Weekly.
Visit family-owned Ken Michaels Furniture and our in-store design centers, where you'll still find beautiful, luxurious, heirloom-quality American-made furniture. Right now, save 30 to 35% store-wide and take advantage of our complimentary design services. Whether you're moving, renovating, or updating, our designers will help your vision become a reality. Visit Ken Michaels Furniture in Brookfield on Capitol Drive and in Greenfield on Highway 100 to save 30 to 35% store-wide today. Sleep better and save more with mattresses from Milwaukee Mattress and Ken Michaels Furniture. Handcrafted in our Milwaukee factory, our mattresses utilize natural materials like cotton cushioning, which dissipates body heat, Joma wool quilts for warm wintry nights and cool summer evenings, and natural latex providing superior conformability and pressure relief for aching joints. Stop in today at any Ken Michaels Furniture store and save up to 50% compared to national brands.
When your pipes burst, water heater's leaking, drains backing up, or whatever your plumbing problem is, the reliable plumbers at Quality are on hand 24/7 to fix your plumbing problem with fully stocked vehicles and lightning-fast response times. This is Anthony Zanevsky. Call Quality first and get the signature service you deserve to fix your plumbing problem ASAP.
Call Quality for the signature service you deserve.
Call Quality, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electric. I don't have to tell you that a lot of dust and other junk collects in your ductwork. And it doesn't just sit there. It's blowing around in your home. And that jeopardizes your home health. The commercial industrial duct cleaning system we use at Quality darn near sucked the shirt right off our tech the first time he used it. Believe me, not everybody has this powerful of a system. It's unlike any other. At Quality, you get the best duct cleaning, period. So call Quality first for your duct cleaning needs.
For the signature service you deserve.
This is Bucks Weekly on WTMJ. The next era of Bucks basketball is here.
Our guest is one of Milwaukee's favorite sons, Darvin Ham.
Giannis has some years still where his jump shot is going to get more consistent, get better. The free throw shooting is going to get better.
This is Courtside with Gail Klappa.
Our guest is the head of the herd, the head coach of the Bucks, Doc Rivers.
Well, you can see people buying in, and it takes a buy-in from your entire team. And getting Giannis and Chris and Bobby and
The Source for the inside scoop on every dribble, drawn-up play, and decision made.
Here in Milwaukee, we call him the People's Mayor. Our guest, Bucks forward Bobby Portis.
A hard worker, blue-collar guy, so I'm a blue-collar guy in a blue-collar city.
Now, here's your host, Gail Klappa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gail Klappa, and this is Courtside. It was a quick trip. 2 games, 3 days. The Bucks found some magic in Orlando, but got sliced up by the Knicks and the Big Apple. Now, if you followed the Bucks since opening night, you're glad you buckled your seatbelt. It's been a season of highs and lows, but there's plenty of runway ahead. And for any NBA team with big-time aspirations, resilience is the key. Tonight, we talk with a guy who knows a lot about resilience, a former head coach, a trusted assistant to Doc Rivers, and a cancer survivor. Our guest is Bucks assistant coach Dave Yeager. Dave, welcome to Courtside. Good to sit down with you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, Dave, let's dig right in. Over the past month or so, as you know, the Bucks defense has really been on the rise, but not so on Sunday, when the Knicks burned us for 140 points. Your thoughts, Dave, on how the wheels came off in the Big Apple?
I think, you ran into a New York Knicks team that was maybe a must-win game for them in their journey of the season. Had not been playing well, had not been shooting the basketball very well, had not been guarding very well. And, sometimes the law of averages, they're kind of due. And they found some magic early with Jalen Brunson really set the tone, had 20-some points in the first quarter, and as a franchise guy and wants to lead his team out of, a little bit of a rut that they're in. So he came out, was very aggressive, and got them going, and he went to the bench, and Karl Anthony Towns got going, and then a former Buck, Cameron Payne, started hitting some shots, and all of a sudden, you look up, they had 72 points at halftime, and so that's tough to dig out of, but we still had our opportunities. We just couldn't get it whittled down fast enough, and then Brunson got hurt. They kept the score moving without him, and then he came back and kind of finished up the game there in the fourth quarter, and then after that it was get some other guys some opportunities there.
And Dave, we could potentially, after 2 losses to the Knicks this season, we could potentially see them down the road as the Eastern Conference standings shake up for the playoffs, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think, when you talk about the top teams that are playing for seeding, you're looking at, the Milwaukee Bucks, obviously with us, Boston, Cleveland, and New York. And Orlando's been really injured this year, but is sitting there with, at a 4 or 5 seed as well. So any of those top teams, you want to go up against, and you want to see, how your season is progressing and where you size up with some of those teams. And, without a doubt, you're going to see some of those teams or all of them in consecutive order at some level in the playoffs.
Well, Ryan Rollins, a young two-way player, has turned some heads this year, Dave. Talk about grit. He's playing with a separated shoulder, assuming he has to have surgery. But right now, obviously, you believe he can still play and make a real contribution.
Yeah, he's been great when called upon. He's a pesky defender, and certainly he's not afraid of any moment on the court. And if he's open, we want him to shoot the basketball, and I think he can score the basketball at a good level. And I think that at times gives you an opportunity for more ball handling on the court as well. Sometimes people are getting up and really trapping and pressuring Dame Lillard, so that can be a nice different pitch to throw at the other team.
And talk, if you will, about your observations on two pickups that John Horst and the Bucks made in the offseason, Taurean Prince and Gary Trent Jr., both newcomers, both guys can shoot the heck out of it.
Yeah, both guys have been around the league, have good experience, good quality human beings, high character guys, hard work ethic. I think the qualities that you look for in a Milwaukee Buck player, and their ability to make open shots from three-point range, and their percentages bear that out. That having those guys out there is really important for Giannis needs that space, and so having guys that can be designated shooters out there is those are big time guys for us.
And Dave, talk, if you will, about your observation on the developing chemistry on the court between Dame and Giannis.
I think anytime you put two great players together, they've got as many points and accolades and awards and as they have by playing their own style, and then as the number one guy, and so on their respective teams. So when you put some of those guys together and they have to play, where does this guy like the basketball? What kind of spots on the floor does he like? What kind of angles? When the defense does this, then you start seeing all kinds of different things, and it only through repetition of games. And game minutes played, and all the different looks that a defense can give you, can you really get those reps? And I think it's it's a work in progress. I think it looks fantastic, and it's going to continue to get better. And both of them say that they're both just really good human beings again, and they want to win. They're competitive, and they want to help each other. So I think it's been a terrific combination, and I look forward to a lot more of those minutes together.
More with Dave Yeager, the Bucks assistant, in a moment. This is Courtside on WTMJ.
You're right, and I'll agree. It does sound too good to be true. But offering you affordable treatment that alleviates pain, which really does work, that we've seen in most cases insurance paid for in full, is a definite reality. It's pain relief, really. And these are FDA-approved treatments. They're safe and proven to reduce inflammation and alleviate pain. Yeah, you'll have to get a couple of shots, and I know that can scare people. But the needle is extremely small. And after giving shots like this hundreds of thousands of times, you'll see we make it very easy. You're going to feel the relief that our powerful pain relief agents give you. They're pain relief drugs that solve pain problems. And the way I feel is that Rejuvenex should be the first stop for anyone living with pain in shoulders, hips, elbows, and knees. At $65 per joint, per injection, it's probably the most affordable pain relief option available that actually works.
Rejuvenex. Alleviate your pain. Rejuvenate your life.
Rejuvenex Google reviews will tell you more.
So how do you underpromise and still get the job? We believe in our hearts we're going to do great work for you. We're just really careful about making unrealistic promises. At Semper Fi, we refuse to set the bar higher than we can jump. But be assured, that's the goal, to do all we can to jump as high as possible to try to exceed your expectations. We're looking to break records. That's how you win over customers, get really great referrals, and build a great business. When you're making a decision to hire an exterior remodeling company, character, integrity, and the feeling that the people you're about to hire are truly eager to show you how good they are should stand at the top of your list. This is Brad Youngluth with Semper Fi Roofing and Exteriors, your local, veteran-owned and operated exterior remodeling company. For your new roof, siding, window and door installation, or masonry work, you can count on Semper Fi to keep you safe, warm, and dry.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry. Semper Fi.
Bucks Weekly on WTMJ. Back to Courtside with Gail Klappa and Bucks assistant coach Dave Yeager.
Dave, in about a week, we'll hit the halfway mark, believe it or not, of the NBA season. Let's look first at the Bucks offense. You got shooters all over the place. How would you grade the Bucks offensive play so far?
I think it's still a work in progress, but I think I think we didn't shoot the basketball real well coming out of the gate in the first sampling of games, and I think then there's been a stretch where we shot above average, and now things kind of even out. And I always equate it to shooting the basketball is no different than Major League Baseball hitters. A good hitter is going to sometimes bat 150 for a couple weeks, and that just because they're going to be a 300 batter, that means that there's going to be equally 3 weeks where they are going to bat 450 and 500. So shooting can come and go, but you want the ball movement and the quality of shots that you're getting to be effective, and I think that's worked out well for us as we continue through the course of the season. So I think I would say the offense is going to be led by the two guys that are obviously are going to be Hall of Famers, and so you have two of those guys. They're the hub of your offense, and guys have to learn how to play off of those guys. And you mentioned two guys that are new, Gary Trent and Taurean Prince, and it's always Pat Connaughton's played with Giannis for a long time. He's played with Dame Lillard before, so he has a lot of that knowledge institutionally. Some of these other guys that are still trying to find their spots, and I don't want to be in the way, but I want to get the proper spacing, and so some of those things are still being learned as we go.
And turning to defense, Dave, how do you assess the Bucks' overall performance on defense at this point of the season?
I think we've been very solid, especially when we have everybody healthy, and Brook Lopez anchoring the defense, and if he has to go help a basketball or defend the rim, that Giannis is kind of behind him with his length and his athleticism as a help defender in that area. I think putting Andre Jackson in the starting lineup to really bother the other team's best player and pick him up full, and be physical, and he's as athletic as he is, and the energy that he brings to the game has been very, very good for us. And the other guys, I think AJ Green is surprising maybe people on the outside with his ability to defend the basketball, and for us on the inside, that doesn't surprise us. We see the work that he puts in, and the time that he spends on watching his video and improving his craft. So he's been very good for us. And then Gary Trent and Taurean Prince as well, both good wing defenders. And on different nights, their assignments are to there's a lot of good offensive players in the NBA, and so you're never going to hold a team to 12 points for a game, but you can just try to make things as difficult as possible, and those guys are doing a great job.
And Dave, let's talk for a moment about the return of Chris Middleton after surgery on both ankles over the summer. In the past few games, Chris has been coming off the bench. Given, Dave, what you've seen so far, do you think Chris can bounce back to the all-star caliber player of old?
Absolutely. I think we all have only so many jumps in our body, no matter if you're Giannis or Gail or Dave here. So they all have to deal with their own mentality. I just don't think he's anywhere near it. I think he's got a lot of good years left, and it's not easy to coming back from the surgeries that he's had. But at the same time, the guy works incredibly hard. His IQ is off the charts. And so just getting back in a rhythm, I think his conditioning is coming. He works at it, and I do think that the better days are still ahead.
Well, over the years, as you mentioned, you've had head coaching roles in both Memphis and Sacramento. And Dave, back in 2021, you were serving as Doc's top assistant in Philadelphia when you received personally some very difficult news. Tell us, if you will, about your cancer diagnosis and how you beat it.
Yeah, I mean, I had noticed a lump on the side of my neck, and I had a ear, nose, and throat doctor in Memphis, and visited with him, and everything came back fine. And then a year later, I kind of realized, it kind of hadn't gone away, and so we did some more testing while I was now in Philadelphia there, and then he, my guy from Memphis called back and said, hey, we need to sit down and talk, and you never enjoy those phone calls or those texts, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so, he informed me that I had head and neck cancer, stage 1. So we caught it very early, which is, a big advocate for, early detection and screening for all kinds of cancers, and, to do the best we can and be proactive in our own care and diagnosis. Not diagnosis, I shouldn't say that, but to get to the doctor to find the diagnosis. And so, we had to step away from the team just because you're going to do a radiation. I did 7 weeks of radiation 5 days a week, and once a week then I did chemotherapy as well. So, it's a tough treatment, but at the same time, I feel very fortunate to have found it so early, and to have stage 1 is a lot, more sunny outlook. To be optimistic that you can beat it, and so we're 3 years removed from that, and the tests continue to come back negative, and I think I got 2 more years before you are considered to be cancer free, and look forward to that. And you always hold your breath every time you go in and take your your blood tests and go get your scans, and but you do what you can do, and try to help as many people along the way as you can.
And finally, Dave, the last word. What's your message to Bucs fans who are hungry for another championship run?
Oh, that it's a long season, and I think we all we want the days to be longer, and the sun to be out longer, and hurry up and get to April and the playoffs and the excitingness of what that is, and thrilling games. And we are on our way, but it's part of the journey. We continue to build and get better and better. And I think when you have an opportunity to see the talent on a nightly basis that we get to be a part of here, to enjoy that. You don't know that you'll ever get to see a Giannis or a Dame, and guys like Brooke and Bobby and Chris, and it's a special thing. So enjoy every moment that we have, and let's go win a championship.
Dave, thanks so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to visit with you. And you've been listening to Courtside on WTMJ. So long, everybody.
Get the beat of the Bucs straight from a fan favorite and Bucs legend.
Welcome to the fantastic voyage. Marcus Johnson, the captain of this vessel.
Tap into Here District with Marcus Johnson, a Bucs Plus audio production.
My first mate, Chris Johnson, the only father and son tandem.
Your weekly pulse on the Milwaukee Bucks and conversations with the biggest names in basketball. This week, Marcus and Chris are joined by Steve Jones, host of the Dunker Spot podcast. Find Here District now on Bucks.com/plus, the Bucks app, or wherever you get your podcast.
In 1964, we were making strides towards space travel.
Mary Poppins was the #1 movie in theaters.
And the Beatles were taking America by storm.
Which was long before I was born.
Facts. 1964 is also the year it all started for Richland's Tire and Service Centers. 60 years of continuous growth and more happy customers than you can shake a stick at.
Okay, the streamers are a bit overkill. It's just us in the studio.
All right. But it's important to know accomplishments like these aren't possible without a dedicated team. So hats off to them and our founder, my dad, Dick Mitchke, for understanding the importance of customer focus.
Facts. There's no 60 years of anything without you, the customer, which is why our focus will remain on you and only you for years to come.
Thank you from all of us here at Richland's Tire and Service Centers.
Richland's Tire and Service, such a refreshing change. Richland's.
I know you have a great dog, right? But you know there's room for improvement. At Sit Means Sit Dog Training, we can help. Our attention-based training system uses modern technology to help you better communicate with your dog, even in high distraction. When you schedule a free consultation with us, you will have the opportunity to see our training in action and meet for yourself our happy dogs off leash and under control. Contact Sit Means Sit today at 262-361-3641 or find us on the web at sitmeansitwaukesha.com to schedule your free consultation so you can have a happy, confident, and obedient dog.
AccuNet Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 255368.
This is Chief Market Watcher Brian Wickert. Well, a lot of folks have buying a home on their New Year's resolution list, and while national news headlines talk about the inventory of homes for sale being a lot higher this year, I'm afraid that's just not the case in most of Wisconsin. So how do you make your offer stand out from the others so that someone else doesn't end up sleeping in your dream home? Well, it takes a team of a good real estate agent and a mortgage lender who has all the tools and techniques to help make your offer as attractive as possible in the eyes of that seller. Sure, you can go with a flimsy, unimaginative bank pre-approval, or you can present your offer with an AccuNet, rock-solid, fully verified, and guaranteed pre-approval that might also come with the phrase that really makes sellers happy: no appraisal required. We'll also help you understand exactly what it means in dollars and cents if you do decide to offer over asking or give that seller some appraisal wiggle room. All you have to do to get started with your rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval is click on the blue button at AccuNet.com. That's ACCUNET.com.
You're listening to Bucks Weekly on WTMJ.
So the Sacramento Kings in town tomorrow, and as we just mentioned earlier, they're a team that their rim defense can be a bit deceiving because they don't allow a lot of opportunities. However, that isn't so much because of players like Domas Sabonis and their rim protection as much as it's the Kings are giving up more points on the perimeter. Teams are shooting the three very well against the Sacramento Kings. That is something the Bucks did not do well against the New York Knicks. So in some ways, it's a big opportunity for, as Dave Yeager said, they went through stretches of not shooting the ball terribly well, especially in the first 10 games of the season. All that means, to use the baseball analogy, is if you got a 2-week stretch where you're batting 100, if you're a 300 hitter, you're going to have an equal amount of sample size where you're hitting 500 or 600 to level things out. And that's what we've seen from the Bucks. So tomorrow's a big opportunity to get back on the track of knocking down shots. But for Giannis specifically, I think it's a big opportunity this entire week to get right, if you will. And look, Giannis has been incredible all season long. Yesterday, however, was the first time this season that Giannis failed to shoot 50% or better from the field for a game. Every single game this season, Giannis made at least half of his shots up until yesterday. And it's kind of been a trend of late. I don't think it's just one singular thing to point to. I think there's a couple of things that have kind of converged here. He certainly didn't quite look the same efficient Giannis. No surprise when he returned from the tendinopathy and the illness that I mentioned that has kind of ripped through the locker room a couple of weeks ago. But then you go back 1 week ago today when we said, hey, you got 4 games this week, just as you had 4 games last week. More similarities. The Magic are one of your 4 games this week. Magic were one of your 4 games last week. You got a Western Conference team this week. You had a Western Conference team last week. You got the Toronto Raptors this week, and you had them last week. Well, in that Raptors game, that's where Giannis cut open his finger on his right hand and had to get it stitched up at halftime. He has not quite looked right since then. The efficiency numbers back it up. And again, it's not just that game forward. We saw him down slightly, efficiency that is, for about, the last 8 or so games. But I think it's pretty apparent when you watch him these past 2.5 games, he's dunking with his left hand. And look, it's not as though Giannis had never dunked with his left hand before. It's exclusively with his left hand. I mean, you cannot convince me in some way, shape, or form the right hand is not bothering him. So that is obviously number one. Like, if that is, there's going to be lingering effects until he feels 100%. But let's assume it's no longer the case. Tomorrow's a big, big opportunity for Giannis, and I think this week, to really start to get back into attack mode and find that efficiency. The same efficiency we've talked about before. It's better than 50% shooting in mid-range attempts. By the way, he did not hit a mid-range attempt yesterday against the New York Knicks. He only took 3, 0 of 3. To get back into that mix, because it opens up everything for this Bucks offense. You know, we've talked about Giannis needs that secondary shot. He needs the 3 for years. Well, we've seen what it changes to have that mid-range shot. Changes how you can load up against him defensively. It changes how you're able to help on the perimeter when Giannis passes. When he's not hitting it, it's easier to sag off and say, okay, we're just going to get out to the perimeter. We're going to start to build a wall here. You can't do that when he's hitting the mid-range shot. So in many ways, this is no surprise. As Giannis goes, the Bucks go. The efficiency wasn't there yesterday, and it hasn't been for the last handful of games. But the Kings present an opportunity for Giannis to reclaim that efficiency. The Orlando Magic have a lot of length to throw at him. We've still seen Giannis feast on that matchup. Case in point, less than a week ago, Friday night in Orlando, when Giannis scored 41 points against the Magic, a healthy Orlando Magic team, relatively healthy Orlando Magic team. The Toronto Raptors, a team that Giannis has had big games against throughout his career. And we wrap up the week. By the way, final game of the week will be game number 41 of the regular season for the Bucks. So once this game is played, the Bucks are officially halfway done with the season. And this game is against the Philadelphia 76ers. We do not know if Joel Embiid will be available for this game. He has missed a handful of games of late with a knee sprain. He is still not playing in back-to-backs. And Philadelphia has 2 back-to-backs this week. They play Saturday night in Indianapolis and Sunday night in Milwaukee. And as I said, if Embiid's not playing in back-to-back games, we referenced the standings before. The Indiana Pacers are in front of the Bucks at 22-18. Which game is the 76ers going to determine is the more important game? Saturday night in Indy or Sunday night in Milwaukee? So that is something to keep an eye on. And by the way, the Pacers have a challenging schedule this week as well. They have the Cleveland Cavaliers tomorrow night. We mentioned they have the 76ers on Saturday night. They have the Detroit Pistons on Wednesday. And don't laugh at that when I say the Pacers have a challenging week, because the Detroit Pistons are suddenly knocking on the door of catching the Bucks. They're 20-19. 2 games back in the loss column. The Pistons and Pacers have been the 2 hottest teams in the league behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it has really been Central Division dominance in the last 10 games. The Cavs are 9-1. The Pistons are 8-2. And the Pacers are 7-3. And by the way, the Pistons are playing right now against the same New York Knicks that steamrolled the Bucks yesterday. It's getting late in that game at Madison Square Garden. We'll update you on that score and get you set for that matchup tomorrow night as the Bucks begin a season-long 4-game homestand with the Sacramento Kings. We'll get to those points and wrap up the show after this.
Whether it's 24/7 emergency service or it's just time to replace your furnace, at Quality we'll be out so fast you won't even notice the heat being off. And if you're buying a high-efficiency furnace from Armstrong or Carrier, you'll qualify for state and federal tax rebates that'll pay for a big chunk of the cost. This is Anthony Zanevsky from Quality, where you'll get the signature service you deserve.
Call Quality for the signature service you deserve.
Call Quality, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electric. If you like being prepared like I do, you know the value of a generator. When the power goes out, it's a terrible inconvenience. And that's why Quality installs effortless whole home generators that give you power when everybody else's is out. This is Anthony Zanevsky from Quality, where you'll get the signature service you deserve and whole home generators that make power outage fears subside.
Call Quality for the signature service you deserve.
Call Quality, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electric.
Visit family-owned Ken Michaels Furniture and our in-store design centers, where you'll still find beautiful, luxurious, heirloom-quality American-made furniture. Right now, save 30 to 35% store-wide and take advantage of our complimentary design services. Whether you're moving, renovating, or updating, our designers will help your vision become a reality. Visit Ken Michaels Furniture in Brookfield on Capitol Drive and in Greenfield on Highway 100 to save 30 to 35% store-wide today. Sleep better and save more with mattresses from Milwaukee Mattress and Ken Michaels Furniture. Handcrafted in our Milwaukee factory, our mattresses utilize natural materials like cotton cushioning, which dissipates body heat, Joma wool quilts for warm wintry nights and cool summer evenings, and natural latex providing superior conformability and pressure relief for aching joints. Stop in today at any Ken Michaels Furniture store and save up to 50% compared to national brands.
You're listening to Bucks Weekly on WTMJ.
Yeah, so 4 big games once again this week for the Bucks. Chance to go into the back half of your schedule on a high note. remains to be seen who is going to be available. I said Joel Embiid. I mean, it's Joel Embiid and Paul George that we're not seeing play in both ends of a back-to-back. So it's going to be interesting to see who is available for that game Sunday night between the Bucks and the 76ers. And certainly a matchup that, you know, every single game against Philly we circled this season with all the intrigue that was going to be behind it. The new look 76ers, but it just hasn't worked out so far. Health is a big part of it. Look, Bucks fans know as well as anyone the importance of health, and that kind of brings us back to the conversation we started the show with in the 0-8 record against those top three teams in the Eastern Conference. I don't know what to make of it. I know it means something. I don't necessarily believe or know that it means the Bucks ceiling and floor has lowered dramatically, that you can't put the Bucks in that conversation, as you're already hearing that. I don't know that that's the case. We heard from Giannis after the game. We got to figure it out. And it almost verbatim what we heard from Giannis after the last time the Bucks were in New York and lost an embarrassing game to the New York Knicks. I mean, to me, that's the bigger takeaway. Damian Lillard talked about this after the game as well, and that I don't know what it means. Kind of the same message that I've given you. I don't know what it means, but I do know this, and added the caveats of, look, some of those matchups and those 8 games against the Cavs, the Celtics, the Knicks, some of those were early in the season when we were really in the throes of it. That first loss to the Knicks was their 10th game, which dropped them to 2-8 on the season. I know I talked about coming out of that. You started to play better, but you were still losing games. And as Dame said, we haven't had everybody for those games. You know, you look back to against the Cavaliers, it was only one game where we played with most of our guys. Against the Knicks, you did have those guys. You didn't have Chris Middleton in the first matchup. But that, to me, is the bigger thing. Again, I don't know that it means the door is shut on this team. But to me, the Knicks games are the biggest ones to circle and make note of because of how the optics have been, because they were 2 dominant wins by the New York Knicks, and because in both of those games, Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns had huge games. Everything you envision from Giannis and Damian Lillard, those 2 guys outplayed you. So that is at least something to keep on the radar and make note of. Yes, you were competitive against the Celtics in all those games, save for really one quarter in each of those 3 games. We all remember the first 2 games against the Cavs. You lost by a combined 3 points. One of them you lost on a Donovan Mitchell jumper with 0.3 of a second remaining. So you can point to anything with all these yeah-buts. The point from Giannis was we got to figure it out. We were starting to play better. This does not reflect who we are. Doc Rivers made the same point. And Doc Rivers took it a step further, too, saying, look, coaches laugh at this as long as we're playing good basketball. Once we get into the back half of the season and move into the playoffs, and more importantly, we're healthy, I'll take that if it means we're 0-10 against these 3 teams. And I do think there's a lot of merit to that. We'll get a good look at it tomorrow, though, because that's a Kings team that's playing as well as anyone. So this is a big chance for the Bucks to start to play much better. And by the way, I mentioned the Detroit Pistons. They are on the verge of beating the Knicks. They lead 124-119 right now with 5 seconds remaining on a big 3-pointer from Malik Beasley. So the Pistons keep on rolling. Tomorrow night at Fiserv Forum, the Bucks and the Sacramento Kings. That's a 7 o'clock tip-off. 6:30 is when our pregame coverage begins. And as always, be sure to stick around after the game for Bucks Talk. We will talk with you then.
James Imaging Systems. Local support, local accountability, local business technology representatives. Listen to Matheson Manufacturing President Al Leidinger.
She still checks in to see how things are going and if we need anything. So I really do appreciate that from a customer service standpoint.
Michael Quizan, IT Systems Administrator at Great Midwest Bank, discovered the benefits of working with the local team at James.
Our cost from supplies perspective went down. I mean, we're talking about thousands in a year. So we saved a lot of money by bringing James Imaging on.
James Imaging Systems client Luther Gray, Director of Ticket Operations and Group Sales with the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra, on dealing with James.
They are making sure you get the full value and life of every product that you have with them.
Local support, local accountability, local people. Get it all with James Imaging Systems, your local business technology partner. Call 262-781-7700 or visit jamesimaging.com.
Traffic is brought to you by Rejuvenix, your non-surgical joint therapy experts.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a good